Welcome to Conversate, a podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, I, Kevin Bender, am sitting down with my good friend and Office Manager, Carrie Rich, to talk about wisdom. We're starting a new Wise Guy series here at the church, studying different characters from the Bible known for their wisdom. And so Carrie and I will talk about the wise men. We'll share some of our thoughts about them, maybe some misnomers about them, but then think about the kind of wisdom that God shows to us through the story of the wise men. As always, we hope that something in this conversation sticks out for you, and you're able to take it and go have a conversation with someone else. And we hope you enjoy it. That was a nice, gentle clink, my friend.
Hey, it's not my first clink.
You've had clinks in the past that overflowed beverages.
Yes, I'm very, very good at the clinky.
Well, it's good to have you on. If you don't recognize the voice, listeners, faithful listeners of the Conversate podcast, I have with me today the Carrie Rich.
Ooh, where's my applause?
Oh, man, you're right. I promised applause.
Oh, yeah. Hey. Oh, that was rim shot. Oh, wow. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah. Well, you told me you didn't want applause.
That's true.
I did promise you a different button.
You did.
But, maybe you do recognize the voice. If you're a member here at this church, if you've interacted by calling in to Saints Peter and Paul, you have likely talked or perhaps email communicated with Carrie Rich. Carrie is our office administrator. What's your official title, Carrie?
I think they call it Office Manager because you guys need some management.
Yeah.
I have to keep you on track.
It's true. And that is what it says on your bin, Office Manager.
Office Manager.
Right. And you've been with us since last
June. Well, May-ish June, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a kind of like a slow phase-in start.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I was ending my time at a school, so I was working through the end of the school year, and then joined you guys.
What a ride.
Crazy circus.
What a ride it's been, yeah. I will say this to Carrie's testament to her skills. I mean, this is my impression, Carrie.
Oh, okay.
I think that we are getting more organized.
I would hope so.
Slowly but surely.
Well, thank you. It's a very big love of mine. Organization. It goes way back.
Yeah.
Oh, deep roots.
Okay. Well, tell me more.
Tell you more.
When did you first start to love organizing things?
Oh my goodness.
When did you first managing disorganized things and people?
In the womb.
Aw. Bella, if you're listening, we love you. Well, so this is just to share too a little bit about Carrie.
Sure.
Carrie is not only our office manager, but she's the mother of a proud Hancock Bulldog. Let's go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs.
And her name is Bella.
Bella, yep.
Yeah. And how old is Bella now?
14.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. But I suppose, motherhood, do you feel like, is that truly where you got your organizational instincts?
No, that just refined it in the fires of motherhood. That's how it was. But no, yeah. I've been organized for a lot of years. I've always had that that bend, that
particular flavor.
Yeah, that flavor.
Well, okay, you're gonna have to. So this is fun for me because I'm also refreshing my memory, or perhaps learning new things about Carrie.
Ooh.
But you grew up in downstate Michigan, right?
Yeah, yep. I grew up in Hart, Michigan, which is over near Ludington. It's a real small town near Ludington.
So Hart, Michigan,
on the west side, on Lake Michigan.
Okay, on Lake Michigan, and if I remember right, your folks had some acreage.
Yep. We have a centennial farm that's been in our family for over 100 years, 125 now. So,
man, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so we have acreage that my parents farmed, and but my dad was also an engineer.
Okay.
And my mom worked out of the home at different points, but we also farmed too. So we were very busy people. And my parents have a farm market downstate now. Oh, my mom now. My dad passed away a couple of years ago. And that's where I came from.
So what kinds of things did you do on the farm growing up?
Oh my goodness. What does a farm kid not do? That's probably an easier question. We had all sorts of crops, and animals, and you had to take care of all of them. So you're out either planting or picking or harvesting or weeding or fertilizing and all the crops, and then as a kid you had to feed your cows and your sheep and everything else before you got fed. That was always the big responsibility thing, is you never let the animals wait on you.
Man.
So
I feel guilty for my chickens. Molly, if you're listening, just turn it off. No. So when you say your animals too, like, were there specific, are you saying like just the animals that your family collectively owned, or did you get like, hey, you specifically have this group of animals, or? Right.
Well, okay. So yes, we had collective animals. This is a really weird conversation, Kevin. This has gone way sideways, but
this is like every conversation I ever had.
So yes, we had farm animals. So we raised steers and chickens and sheep and llamas, and and of course you always had the requisite barn cats and dogs and that kind of thing. But we also participated in 4-H, and so we had our own animals that we used and grew. And do you know about 4-H?
No, I was just going to ask,
okay.
What's 4-H?
Well,
I feel like I've heard that term.
4-H is like the agricultural county fair.
Oh, okay.
Kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so 4-H has so many different varieties of things, but you can go everything from growing your plants and stuff to doing crafts to doing animals to showing and learning about an animal and how it grows and what its value is and that type of thing, and then selling it at the county fair and
Are there 4-H's involved in 4-H?
Yes.
What do you know what they are?
Yes.
What are they?
Head, hands, health, heart.
Oh, really? Oh, I was thinking it was going to be like horticulture and then 3 other big H words I didn't know that had to do with, animals somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But there's also other stuff too. There's leadership stuff and being an ambassador and going overseas and like exchanges. I mean, 4-H is very varied.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So it's a broad. Is it an international organization then? Mm-hmm. Okay. Gotcha. With lots of different tributaries. Mm-hmm. Sorry, now I'm just making up big words. That's not a word. Tributaries not a word. No. Okay. So sorry. Let me bring it back around and localize this. Are you guys going to participate in the local county, or have you?
We
ever?
have.
Really?
Yep. We had Bella involved in the Baraga County 4-H, but they dissolved. There wasn't enough kids doing it. So.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but the Houghton County, I believe, they have their county fair, and Baraga County Fair still exists, but I don't know if there's a 4-H thing that goes with it right now.
Gotcha. I still haven't made it to, I've been to the county fair, the Houghton County Fair. Mm-hmm. My daughter Lily absolutely loves it. Like, she seriously says it's her favorite thing, which is great. Cute. I love going with her. But we have yet to make it to because they do like animal showings and stuff there, I think, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've been to like the petting area, but not to like that far side where I think people are like showcasing there.
Yeah. And Lily might be a little bit young yet for some of that.
Maybe. But be surprised. She was there when we culled our chickens.
Oh, you let her watch that?
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin.
She did well. She did well. Was that wise of me to do that, Carrie?
I don't know. I'm not sure there's a lot of wise in that action, but hey.
I honestly wasn't sure how it was going to go. Like, I was like kind of nervous that we'd get there and she'd be like traumatized by it. But the whole experience for her and for me actually was very natural. It was quite natural. It wasn't because I didn't know how I was going to do either. I did not grow up in that sort of a setting or doing like farmhand type stuff, or even like wild animals. Like when we first moved into our house with chickens, I was afraid of the chickens. Like every time I went out, I was like,
that makes a lot of sense.
I was like, they know something. They're barking back and forth. I don't speak their language. No, they're really nice though. So it's what I've come to learn about animal kind.
We had the exact opposite situation happen.
Oh, no kidding. With Bella?
Oh, yeah. We took her, the KVIC used to have a fishing, like a kids fishing day or whatever once a year, and all the kids in the county whatever come in and you have like, it's like a little fishing tournament, and they give you a pole and you go out and you try to catch one in like a certain amount of time. And then, but if you didn't catch one, or if you wanted to catch another one, they had like a little fish pond type thing, like a little tank where you could fish from. And we first year we moved up here, we took Bella, and she didn't catch one in like the tournament part, but she went and caught one in the tank. Well, we were standing off to the side while she was doing this, and they took her right after she caught it over to the fish cleaning station, and they cut off its head and cleaned it right in front of her. And she was so traumatized. She thought she was going to take the fish home.
Oh, no.
To like be a pet.
Yeah, like,
and
what are you doing to my pet?
And she's like, I killed it. We had to have a whole conversation about the circle of life and
sure.
honoring the fish and oh goodness, it was
that is funny.
That was not the reaction we were hoping for that day.
Quite was intended. How old was Bella at the time?
6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's a little bit older than Lily, but she
not
was
much. Well, and I will say this in terms of the chickens, we had there was like a few different varieties we had. And the one that's Lily's favorite, her name's Rutabaga, and she's an Americana, if you're into chickens. And Lily, like, adores that chicken. If that chicken had been at the coaling station, that, I think, would have gone very differently. But the other ones, they were all reds, and you really couldn't tell one from the other. And so I think that helped. But. Well, okay, so speaking of, I like to transition sometimes.
Transition away.
And speaking of animals, once upon a time, there were some dudes on camels.
Camels.
Who traveled westward.
Go west, young man.
Go west, young men. Were there 3? Were there 300? We're not quite sure. But this last Sunday, we were looking at the wise men. So Matthew 2.
Or wise guys.
Well, that's right. Yeah. So just to set you up, if you're listening, you're like, why are you transitioning into the Magi after all this horticulture 4-H talk? Yeah, we're in a sermon series right now that Carrie just alluded to, Wise Guys. And we're looking at different characters in the biblical literature who were known for their wisdom to see what wisdom we can glean from them in our modern day. And we began the series with, the Magi, the wise men.
Yep.
And I did a little deconstruction work on Sunday. I don't know if did you happen to?
I did. We caught it at home. We were online this weekend, but we did catch it, and we were.
Did I ruin Christmas?
No.
All right, good.
But you spun it a little bit, so we made us thinking about it a little bit, which is probably a good thing.
Okay, well, tell me more, Carrie. Tell me more.
Now you can put me on the spot.
Yeah, that's all I want to do today is put Carrie Rich on the spot.
That's awesome.
Well,
thanks, Kev.
So, like, I'll share from me. Like, here were some surprising things for me that I did not know, like, growing up about the wise men. And sort of every year, we're sort of, like, re-inundated with information about them that's, it's not like it's, like, horribly wrong, like, in terms of what it's going to do to your faith or something, but it's not that biblical, right? So, like, the first being 3. I love the song We Three Kings of Orient Are. I love that song. You ever listen to the Beach Boys rendition?
No.
Do you ever listen to any Beach Boys Christmas songs?
I have in the past, yes, but I don't know if I've heard that one.
Check it out. It's a good one.
Okay, I'm going to have to.
I'm a big fan of the Beach Boys Christmas songs. Not everyone in my household is. I think it has to do with they're the Beach Boys, and so why are they singing about wintertime and Christmas? I don't know, but I love it. But so, the wise men, the Bible doesn't give us a number. We have a number of presents. So the frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And that's why probably that number 3 gets associated with the number of wise men. But also they're not kings. They're what the text calls wise men, or rather magi, or the Greek noun is magus. It's magoi, which is, anyways, in the text. But all of that, having to do with magic or the occult arts or Eastern mysticism. So there's a couple things that for me, growing up, I always thought, it's these 3 kingly dudes giving gifts to Jesus at the manger, and come to find out, I guess that's not exactly it.
No.
But what for you or your home, like what was surprising? You said like I took a twist.
Well, I guess actually part of it was not thinking that there was more than 3. Like, I've always thought there was 3, or a small grouping that was maybe the 3 guys with their servants, or, the other people that came with them. And I've talked about it before with people, and I've thought about it, about the fact that it's King Herod that put out that all the firstborns to be killed because he wanted, it was within a range of when Jesus was born.
Right. Yes.
And he got that information from the Magi's, right?
That's right.
So I guess I didn't, put 2 and 2 together on the fact that they weren't there right away.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, I always thought that the star led them to him.
Yeah.
Like, within, maybe not that night, but within maybe a week or 2.
Yeah.
Like within
very close
to it. But being that it could have been a year or 2 later.
Right.
When I thought they would have probably went back to Bethlehem instead of going into Egypt, right?
So you're talking about Mary and Joseph. Yeah. So it's kind of surprising. Like, so they went back to Bethlehem for the census.
Yeah.
What's maybe surprising is that they're still in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that doesn't seem like it'd be that long, but
right.
But it's possible that, like, Mary, they would have taken time sort of for her to recover.
Sure.
From the birth,
and I guess I always thought the way the timing went out was that within a few weeks or a month after Jesus was born, then King Herod was coming to look for him, and then they went to Egypt right away. So that, because I always thought that he was, like, don't they have to do that, the
circumcision?
Yes, and stuff, and doesn't and the doves.
So they do like a sacrificial
thing. So I always thought that happened either just before they left or when they got to Egypt. So I always thought that was done in Egypt. It wasn't done there.
Yeah, so that would have been done actually at the temple in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And man, now you're making me think, and I don't have it memorized. I don't even have a Bible with me. Foolish.
You bring in the newbie and you don't bring a Bible? Jeepers, Kevin. What were you thinking?
Like, as we say on this podcast, we hope that, this conversation sparks other conversations. Just so you're aware, listener, we don't expect you to bring a Bible to every conversation you're having.
Thank goodness. I wouldn't necessarily.
You don't have that one, like, I've heard you actually wear a pocket Bible.
I know.
Because, like, it's stop bullets,
My eyes are not that good.
Yeah, the tiny print.
Tiny print.
But that's curious. I'll have to go look after this conversation because you've piqued my curiosity. I think Luke gives... So that's in the Gospel of Luke records Jesus' circumcision and his parents doing sort of like the traditional Jewish customary things after the birth.
Baby's born, yeah.
You got it. And I think Luke gives us a timestamp on that, but I'm not positive about that. So I'd be curious to go see that. And that would have been, hypothetically, like a journey to Jerusalem, but then back home, which I suppose would have been to Bethlehem.
So, and that's always confused me on why they either stayed in Bethlehem or they went to, like I said, I thought they went to Egypt.
And they do,
but sooner probably than what they did. But then that when you were talking about it this weekend, made me think, well, jeepers, that means they were left in Bethlehem for quite a while. And, Joseph had a carpentry business and things back home. So, what did they do?
Yeah.
I'm assuming they didn't have family to stay with.
Well, see, I'm not so sure on that one because, like, the census is taken.
Right.
And so everyone has to return to their hometowns.
Right.
Right? And so my assumption would be that other family members of Joseph's would have returned as well, which is sort of surprising that there's no room for them, with a family member.
Right.
But that would be my hunch, is that there were other family members of Joseph's in the area.
But and then I always wondered too, and I know this is probably segueing way off, but the fact that if they didn't go back to where Joseph met Mary,
Nazareth, yeah, where Jesus is raised,
right? If they didn't do that initially, they don't really ever mention Mary's parents anymore.
No.
And they, as far as I know, they've never mentioned Joseph's parents that I know of
in the biblical story.
In the biblical story. So did Jesus grow up with his grandparents? Because usually back in that time frame, the families were multi-generational. There was a lot living in one house or like within an area.
Yeah.
But they never mentioned that his grandparents. So I always wondered what happened with his grandparents.
That is interesting.
Like,
I've never wondered that.
Like why wouldn't they have had an effect on his life too? And
or like happen to show up like in the gospel story somewhere. Yes. I don't know.
Because you never hear anything after Mary gets married or betrothed or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the tough thing about the scriptures is they don't answer all of our questions.
Right.
But the questions they seek to answer are the ones that are, I guess you might say, well, connected to our faith, right?
Sure.
So like there's all sorts of, you might say, accidental things that are like connected to, say, the life of Jesus or his family or, the Jewish people. There are scriptures that exist or ancient writings that aren't considered holy scriptures that tell us a lot more about the people of Israel, the Jews. I'm thinking of like intertestamental writings.
Historical stuff. That
exactly.
Is not necessarily in the Bible, but it goes
it's sort of,
with it.
It kind of helps like give a framework for the Bible. Yeah, context. But no, we're not told, so far as I'm aware, about Joseph's family other than like the genealogy of Jesus. And likewise for Mary. So, I guess Jesus had grandparents, whether he knew them or they were part of his life. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's always been a weird question.
But I'm going to circle us back to the Magi, Herod. You mentioned that Herod ascertains from the Magi, when they'd first seen the star. Yeah. And then that's kind of why we get the sense that Jesus could have been upwards of 2 is because Herod orders the killing of anyone 2 and younger in the land by the time he discovers he's been duped, right?
Right.
So the wise men, they make it to Jesus, they give the gifts. They're going to go back to Herod and say, hey, we found him. Like, here's where he is. We'll drop a pin and you can go visit him and worship him. And thankfully, and I guess God works, this way in the biblical narrative a lot. He gives a dream. He gives sort of divine revelation, like, hey, don't go do that.
Right.
That will be bad.
That would be very, very bad.
Yeah. And so,
Herod is not the guy you think he is.
That's right. Yeah. So interestingly, like you have sort of set up in this narrative a few different layers of what I would call wisdom. Okay. You've got the Eastern mystical wisdom.
True.
Okay. So this is like the wisdom of the age, like their age,
yes.
Right? Then you have sort of like a political wisdom and acumen, and that's what Herod is sort of dealing with. He is doing what looks wise from an earthly perspective as a tyrant leader, which is eliminating any opposition.
Right.
Use of power and strength to sort of thwart attempts at his throne.
Sure.
And that's why, I like, at the end of my sermon, I said something like, we don't need to tremble, about the wisdom of the world like Herod does. And Herod isn't exactly, Herod's not trembling because magicians came from the East and he's like, oh no, worldly wisdom. Like, so if I suggested that in the sermon, it's really unfair to the text. Herod's trembling because, he was pretty paranoid about his throne. And that wasn't unusual for kings of this time because, and probably even leaders today, anyone with power, there's oftentimes sort of this like paranoia about someone usurping your power.
Right. But back then, usurping wasn't just displacing, it was killing.
That's right. And so this particular Herod the Great, he actually murdered 2 of his own sons. Yeah. He murdered wives for fear of his throne being usurped. And so that's why he's trembling. And the reason Jerusalem is trembling is not because they're like, yeah, we don't want our beloved King Herod to be displaced. They're trembling because they know what Herod gets like.
Yeah. He's cranky pants.
Exactly, which sort of shows up, in high degree with the slaughtering of
To
the
an
innocents.
nth degree.
Yeah. So anyway, so you have the Eastern wisdom. You have this sort of political wisdom in terms of, when you're an earthly leader and you're trying to maintain power, this is how you act. And then you have, I guess what I would call like the foolish wisdom of God.
Foolish wisdom.
The foolish wisdom of God.
Where are you going with this, Kev?
Well, okay, so in 1 Corinthians...
I'm not sure God's very happy with you at the moment, calling him a fool.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess he could take it up with me. But no, because so in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, Paul will say something like this. We preach what is folly to the Gentiles, foolishness to the Gentiles. He says that the Greeks seek wisdom, and so that would be congruent with the Magi, the Eastern people. They said, "Ooh, yes, we want wise teachers. We want sort of the newest wisdom laid on us. We want to be philosophical, right?" And my wife is thinking, Kevin, you should go hang out with the Greeks. That's all I do is try to be philosophical. But so that's what the Greeks wanted. And then and he says the Jews want power. Right. So they wanted demonstrations kind of like Yahweh in the Old Testament in Exodus, display of power that sort of,
proof.
Yeah, exactly. Miracles.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what Jesus gets mad at his Jewish contemporaries for.
Sure.
He says, you're always demanding signs and wonders, right? Mm-hmm. But Paul says, we preach the foolishness of the cross. Okay? So what I mean by the foolish wisdom of God is that God acts in a way that goes against the grain of what we expect as humans.
Okay.
Okay? So one way I would see this playing out is if we were to write a salvation story.
Okay.
Well, let's just think about some. We don't have to think about writing our own story. I know, okay, this is, if you don't know Carrie loves movies. I love movies. We love talking pop culture.
We do. He drops references all the time.
I can't help it. It's because I was raised by television. I
hope your parents don't watch this.
They don't. But if you do, Mom, Dad, love you guys. And thanks for getting satellite TV.
I truly don't think you raised your kids by TV.
It makes for great conversations with this one. But no, okay, so are there any particular hero stories that you have watched or enjoy?
Hero stories? Yeah,
just, think of a hero story.
Well, I just watched one this weekend.
What was it called? If you don't mind sharing. If you don't want to share, we can go a different.
Big Hero 6.
Oh, dude, that's the one that came to my mind. Okay,
it's got hero in the title.
Yes. Okay, so tell me about Big Hero 6.
Okay.
I've seen it, but our viewers may.
Oh, that's true. I don't want to be spoiler alert, but
hey, yeah, they've been alerted. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Basically, there's a kid who's really super smart.
Okay.
And it's in a world to come, or
it's
it's a mixed world, I guess.
It's not post-apocalypse, but it's futuristic.
Yeah. One of the city name is San Francisco, something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's San Francisco and Tokyo combined. Anyways, he is really super smart and is kind of taking the easy road. Mm-hmm. With his smartness, he's doing things that come easy to him.
Yep.
And his brother challenges him.
That's right.
To use his brain in a different way and go to school. And then he shows him where he goes to school.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, this is awesome, and I got to come here." And the kid's only 13, but he's a genius. Mm. And so he comes up with this really crazy tech stuff and gets a scholarship to go to the school, and then the brother ends up dying.
Yeah, that's right.
And it kind of throws him for a loop, and he goes through all this anger and all this stuff. But the project that his brother was working on was this big robotic bubble marshmallow man that is a nurse doctor type person.
That's right.
And he wanted to help people. Mm-hmm. And so, but Hero, the 13-year-old, decides to take it and use it for revenge. So
And does he know who he's trying to take revenge on? I'm trying to remember.
Not initially.
He's like trying to investigate, basically.
Yes,
like
he's like,
who's behind
yes,
this?
Yes, like because they figured out that somebody actually caused his brother's death.
That's right. There's some clues left behind,
yes,
and he's on the hunt.
So there's So, but then basically he goes on. And he pulls in all his brother's friends, and he turns them all into superheroes, and with all of his genius tech and stuff. And but especially, he eventually learns throughout how their chase and their stuff through the movie that it's better not to have anger, to hold on to anger, but it's better to release it and to go towards the good. Use your with great power comes great responsibility, kind of a thing.
Very good.
So that kind of thing. So it ends up being where it comes back around where he teaches someone else to not go towards the revenge, but to use.
Who does he teach that to?
The person that actually wronged him, the person that actually caused his brother's death.
Yes. Okay. I remember that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a surprise.
It's a surprise kind of thing at the end. So, I don't want to go too far into.
But okay, I'm
ruining the movie for everybody. I probably already did, but sorry for the spoiler.
Just go watch. It's really good.
It is a really good movie.
But so because he and his buddies, do they defeat that guy at the end of the movie?
Yes.
I remember like a big battle scene.
Yes and no. In the very end, the stuff that made the guy angry to begin with, that started this whole revenge process, and the bad guy, so to speak, that Hero is fighting against, Hero eventually saves or returns back what the guy was angry about. So he lost his daughter. And he was able to return his daughter to him.
Was she lost in like another dimension or something?
Yeah. And he thought she had died.
That's right.
But he was able to bring him back, and then all this anger and all this stuff that he just let it go because.
Yeah, the thing he had lost, he got back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. See. So okay. So check this. All right. This is my attempt anyway to deconstruct this movie quickly. So you just heard
the basic plot line.
The basic plot line of Big Hero 6. Genius boy lost his brother. He's angry. He's finding out, why his brother died. Locates the target. Wants to exact his revenge on said target. But then at some point, how does that come about where he has to change a heart?
He works through it with his friends and that type of thing, and they start to understand that
this isn't right. But all that to be said, the conclusion of the movie, the brainiac kid Hero, he overcomes his own struggles with his brother's death, and then also, you might say, redeems the villain of the movie by returning his daughter to him. Yeah. And it's sweet, great ending, positive, love it.
Wonderful music swells up.
That's right. That's right.
It's wonderful.
Now, and this is how it goes in the scriptural narrative. Hero of the movie has done, hero of the show, Jesus, JC, done nothing wrong, has lived absolutely perfect. There's nothing he's needing to work through, on his side in terms of anger or vengeance or anything like that. But as it goes, he gets, hounded by his contemporaries. They slander him, accuse him, have a mock trial. He's, sent to be executed by the government, the authorities, and all his followers are like, but wait a minute, you're supposed to be the hero of the movie. And he's like, I am. And then he gets killed.
But then he comes back.
You're right. And we cannot forget that. So there is something to the happy ending, you might say.
Sure.
But for, this is the foolishness of God. And what I mean by that is, when we write hero stories, typically, not always. And actually, there's some, if I remember Big Hero 6, I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but there are elements of it that I loved because it wasn't as, what I would call cookie cutter.
Yeah.
You have your hero who's actually, he's not, it's not a perfect, smooth start to finish. Right.
He had a lot of bumps he had to get through to
work through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is super relatable because that's how life is. But the thing about Jesus' death is when he dies on the cross, it's the bleakest moment for his followers. I mean, this is the lowest I mean, they're hiding out
Yeah.
after this, locked doors. Like, what did we waste the last 3 years of our life on? But Jesus on the cross declares, it is finished.
Right.
Like, the work that I came to do, I have actually accomplished it right here, right now. And so there's a great book written by N.T. Wright, and it's called The Day the Revolution Began. And the day that he pinpoints is not the resurrection, although that is absolutely essential to our theology, but it's Good Friday.
Right.
It's Jesus' death. But it's so backwards. Like, no one sees it coming. Even the first people to meet Jesus when he's resurrected, after they've heard from him several times, hey, by the way, when I die, I am going to come back, like I'm going to die and then rise again. Like, he's told them this.
Like, this shouldn't be a surprise, guys. I'm going to be here.
Exactly. But it doesn't fit within their minds.
Well, and to be honest, how many of us are really thinking someone's coming back after they've been brutally murdered?
That's right. Like, when you've seen it.
When you've seen it, and that's hard. It's hard. It's hard to see it. It's hard to see your hope, your dream, your light go out and think, what is happening? Yeah. And of course they're going to feel lost. And of course, everybody in a grief state is not thinking about the next step. They're thinking about what just happened. They're not thinking about what's coming.
Well, and I think there's something too of our difficulty to believe what maybe goes against our human experience. Yeah. So they experience one thing, but they've been told again and again that's not the end. But when there's so much seemingly working against that, in the moment, it's like, how do you believe,
Right. And most of their experience leading up to that point, when someone dies, they stay dead.
Yeah.
They don't.
That's right. They don't come back.
Lazarus was like the only one, or no, there's a couple of them.
Kids along the way.
But for the most part, most of the time they call it going to sleep or dreaming or something, but they died, and for the most part, once you die, you don't get back up again. That's not usually how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the wisdom there is that they don't have the wisdom until it happens. They have to go through it to get the wisdom.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. What I'm gleaning from that's an insightful comment, Carrie. Because
thanks.
So like
I try. Where's my applause?
Dude, let me hook you up.
Come on. Finally.
Uproarious applause.
Good comment. I should have gotten some applause for that.
It's right.
Mic drop. Sorry, I'm really going to drop it.
Sorry, they're pretty pet. Well, it's drop on the couch.
Yeah.
But, the way I hear that comment, which is, it wasn't enough just to be told, they had to go through the experience.
Yeah.
There's sort of as disciples of Jesus today, you can know theology, you can read your Bible, and I hope you do. Like, I think that's paramount, because it's that word of God that is going to sustain us. But what you'll likely end up experiencing, at least this has been my experience, is that you'll still end up going through things that sort of leave you a bit, I don't know, dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Or like, why? How could this be happening? This is not what I expected, know? And like the world, the devil, like our own sinful flesh, like it's going to want to cause us to doubt and say, like, where is God?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And sometimes it's hard to hear that, hard to hear the voice. It's hard to understand that there is a reason, or there's something that's happening here that's bigger than you.
That's right. Yeah, like it's hard to see beyond our experience. It's just like the disciples. But yeah, the beauty of the gospel is that God's word does prevail. They go through what they go through, and it doesn't mean that. I mean, honestly, it affirms what God had said. It doesn't, even though it's not the way they expected things to turn out, what they discover is that God remained true and faithful to his promises. And that's why, like, reading the scriptures and being, connected to this biblical story is so powerful for us, because we're going to go through things that also challenge our beliefs. and challenge our faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
But what we will come to find, I believe, is that God remains true to his promises.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes we need someone else to come speak that word to us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, someone who has maybe gone through something bigger than what we have or similar to what we have,
Mm-hmm.
but ahead of us, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they can say, look, I was there at your spot at one time, but I've come this way. Because of this time, I'm able to look back and see, you know, it seemed like God wasn't there during this, but I can assure you he is.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that assurance comes from knowing, like, you know, Jesus' death on the cross, he went through the abandonment of God so that we never would be abandoned by God.
Right.
You know, we have in some ways like more ammunition to bolster our faith than the disciples even did, because we get to kind of look back at history and see, wow, not only did Christ actually rise from the dead, here's all these eyewitness accounts, but this testimony about his death and resurrection has permeated all the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still pockets, you know, who haven't heard, but like this originated in Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are sitting on a couch in, you know, the UP
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
talking about this dude. And now I've talked enough, Carrie. And you have a lunch to get to.
I do.
So
It's okay.
thanks for being on the show.
Hey, anytime.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Thanks for chatting. May you
Oh,
and I.
where are you going with this, Kev?
You ever hear that Michael Scott quote? Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going.
Oh, honey, I think that happens most days with you, sweetheart.
I resonate with that quote. I would say this: may you and I, as we go out, let's keep our eyes open. Let's keep our eyes peeled.
Fair enough.
Because we might be beautifully surprised by the foolish wisdom of God.
Amen.
Peace, dude.